Hey everybody, welcome to the video. We are here breaking down the NASCAR All-Star Race at Texas Motor Speedway. This will take place on Sunday, May 22nd. Also Sunday night, I think around 8 p.m. So you have plenty of time to get lineups in. Sorry this video is coming out so late, but I can only post it once we know the qualifying order, so blame NASCAR, not myself. But either way, we'll be breaking down the entire format, how this race is going to play out, all the gimmicks that we're going to end up having. And we'll talk strategy, talk all the drivers. We'll talk about the open race, which is going to have 4 drivers advance, well, 3 drivers from the open race, and then we'll have 1 driver from the fan boat. But I'll break it all down. I'll put images on the screen for you guys so you can pause it, make it easier if you don't want to listen to me talk about it, which I would totally understand. But either way, I get questions each and every single year if these drivers actually want to try during this race. Because if you watch the Pro Bowl from the NFL, or you watch the All-Star race from the NBA, it's kind of just a big joke. No one's playing defense. But for the NASCAR All-Star race, these guys are going to be motivated to actually try and win. And the reason being is that there is $1 million, that is 7 figures on the line for the winner. I don't know about you, but I would not mind an extra $1 million on the bank. Yes, these drivers already have plenty of money, but we're still talking $1 million. So yes, they are going to be trying their best to win. So it could get a bit chaotic once stage 4 rolls around. But before we get into the nitty and gritty of this, let me bore you with an intro here. As always, my name is Pennell. I break down the NASCAR DFS slate each and every single weekend on this channel. And you can find me live on Sunday mornings or afternoons or sometimes evening, just depends on when the race starts. And I'll answer all your questions there in the live stream. Be more than happy to have you there. And you can also find me over on Osmo doing live shows and writing articles over on the website if you do want some extra content. And if you do end up enjoying today's free content, all I ask in return is if you can leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet already. I'll be here all season long. I am not going anywhere, so if you're going to keep coming back, you might as well subscribe to make it easier on both of us. And don't be afraid to hit that notification bell. It does not bite and it will notify you whenever I post new content. And feel free to leave a comment down below agreeing or disagreeing with anything I had to say throughout the duration of today's video. If you just want to tell me hi or I suck, you're more than welcome to do that. It's a free country. I cannot stop you. It'll just hurt my feelings for a little bit, but I will certainly get over it soon. But besides checking out the sponsor of the show, Prize Picks, and using code CPENN to get that instant deposit match bonus up to $100, and follow me over on Twitter at ChrisPennell16. I think that's kind of it for the plugging, so let's get right into this week's preview. And as previously mentioned, this is the NASCAR All-Star Race at Texas Motor Speedway. It is a very low tire wear, 1.5 mile track. We were at Kansas last weekend. Let's get a little bit more tire wear. Texas was recently repaved, not going to be a bit of an issue this weekend as far as tire wear is concerned. We only have 125 laps. We have 4 stages. The first 3 are 25. The last one is 50. I believe that does equal 125. And that means we have just under 90 total Dominator points available to us, which means Dominator points not going to be a huge factor this weekend. I'm not going to completely dismiss them, but certainly not as important as they would be for a regular Texas race where we're seeing around 300 some laps, or even last weekend at Kansas with 267. I'm thinking place differential is certainly going to be kind of popular, especially with some of the guys that we have starting close to the back. But either way, I'm still going to want to target some dominators as far as tournaments go. But the lack of laps does make them less appealing than what we've had the past several races. But at the same time, there's not a lot of laps for the place differential guys to move a ton of spots either, but we're still dealing with like half the field compared to nearly 40 cars that we have most weekends. And just for the boring part, I do want to let you guys know what to expect as far as this race is concerned when it comes to the format or how the open race is going to work and how the stages are going to kind of throw their gimmicks in. It's not going to be too gimmicky, but either way. So I'll read you just straight from the NASCAR website just so this is official as possible, and I will throw something on the screen for you. But for the format for the All-Star Open, it is 3 segments, 20, 20, and 10 laps. That would equal 50 total. Each segment winner advances to the All-Star race. Fans will vote another driver into the All-Star race as well. And as far as the All-Star race is concerned, it's 4 stages, 25, 25, and 50 laps, just like I stated earlier. The Stage 1 winner will start first in the final stage, and that's if the driver finishes in the top 15 in the next 2 stages. The Stage 2 winner will start second in the final stage, parentheses, if the driver finishes in the top 15 in Stage 3. And the Stage 3 winner will start third in the final stage, and then we will have a pit stop competition winner in Stages 2 and 3, which will start fourth in the final stage. And in the final stage, there will be a competition caution after lap 25. If there is no caution in the preceding 10 laps, they will call it the All-Star Competition Caution, and the winner earns $1 million. And that's really all there is to it. It's nothing too crazy, and it's kind of easy to follow. I feel like that one Bristol race really threw us all for a loop, and especially last year, it was kind of wild as well, because we weren't really sure what to expect because they were doing the different aero packages, and they were just doing things after stage breaks. Kind of simple this year compared to the past couple seasons, at least in my opinion. Although I did fall for a meme on NASCAR Twitter earlier this week where someone edited or photoshopped the original format picture. And I fell for it because NASCAR does a lot of silly and stupid things. So I did fall for it for a second. I ended up realizing, okay, I think this is kind of fake. But they had spotter tractor races. They had drivers' wives baking competitions, crew chief karaoke. I was like, this kind of sounds fun. I have no idea how to project this. I might even make a video as crazy as this sounds. I'll have to do some crew chief vocal cord research. We had everybody in Discord planning out what they were going to do. We had boots on the ground in North Carolina to make it work. Well, turns out it was a meme, so we didn't have to worry about it. But I'll throw it on the screen for you guys to look at because it was kind of crazy, but it was kind of sad that it was believable. I think it just kind of tells you the way NASCAR is. But I think that's kind of it for the preview. Make sure you join the DraftKings contest that I host each and every single week. There will be a link down in the comments. It's a league. Join it. You'll get that invite each and every single weekend. But let's move on to the driver-by-driver breakdown. And if you were wondering my overall thoughts on the pricing this weekend, play whatever you want. Doesn't matter. The pricing is extremely soft. We have a shorter race. It's the All-Star race. Everyone's underpriced. Like, yes, Ross Chastain is cheap, but at the same time, so is Ryan Blaney, so is Kevin Harvick, so is Christopher Bell. Everyone's cheap, so I'm gonna try to refrain from saying this guy is underpriced because, well, guess what? They are all underpriced. And if you're wondering the color coding on this, the yellow drivers are in the open race. Remember, 3 will advance, 1 gets the fan vote, so we're gonna have 4 total. I'm pretty sure Tyler Reddick's going to end up advancing. I'm going to kind of pencil him in starting P21 for this race. And the drivers without colors, they're already locked in and they'll have their qualifying spots. But we're going to have 24 total drivers, so just plan on 4 extra guys making it in. And I do want to mention really quick, if you are a fan of the spreadsheets that I preview for you guys on the channel each and every single weekend, there's a lot more to it, including projections, the algorithm power rankings, my own personal GPP exposures. I cannot be more transparent than that. I post these sim scores for DraftKings and FanDuel, optimizer access, ownership projections, articles, Discord community. If you sign up this weekend or today, whenever you're watching this video, if you sign up, I can get you these next 2 races for free. So you get the All-Star race and then the Coke 600, which is one of the biggest races of the year, next Sunday night. If you want to come in, check it out. This is probably the best time to do so. As long as you stay signed up throughout June, you can get one of these months for free. So it's about as nice as I can get. I do appreciate all the love you guys show me each and every single weekend, so I'm more than happy to give back. So if you want to sign up, this is one of the best times to do so. Check it out. Link can be found down below, right beside the orange bubble for the Patreon. But anyway, let's get into these drivers. So we'll start up top with Kyle Larson, $10,000 over on DraftKings. He is starting in P4. These odds were right before practice, so they might have changed a little bit. I can't imagine they're going to change too drastically here. But I still like some Kyle Larson. Is he my favorite play on this slate? No, and since he's the most expensive driver, obviously it's going to be a little bit harder to get to him. But again, pricing is not going to be too much of an issue on this slate. And he was pretty fast in practice, 2nd in the 1 lap, 5th in the 5 lap, and also 1st in the 10 lap. Although I want you to keep in mind, not a ton of drivers did a 10-lap run. I believe we only got 8 for those, so we're kind of missing about half the field. But we know 1.5-mile tracks were Kyle Larson's bread and butter last year. He looked pretty good last weekend, actually almost won the race. Did he have the fastest car? No. Some issues happened to some other guys, but he still had a pretty fast race car nonetheless. Averaging just about 61 DraftKings points per race here at Texas. If you're looking at his recent finishes at similar tracks, it looks really good. No one's even close. Second, first. That was from this season, so he is still putting up very good finishes, even though he has not had the best car in any of those races. And then last year, 1st at Kansas, 1st at Texas, then 10th at Las Vegas. He's also won the All-Star race 2 times in a row. Could be your first ever three-peat this weekend. Certainly on the table, and I know he hasn't been nearly as good as he was last year at these track types. I mean, obviously he just blew everybody out of the water, wasn't even close. If you look at the 2022 numbers, has he been good? Yes, he's getting great finishes, 4 top 5s, has a win, but the dominator points aren't even close to what they were last season, where he was over 100 laps left per race. Now he's at 16.9 and 13.6 for the 2022 season. So I think he's a fine play. Is he a lock for me? No, but he's someone I certainly want to get some exposure to. Moving down to Chase Elliott, his teammate, $9,700. He is starting in 13th. He's had a great season so far. Has a win under his belt, 2 top 5s, some really good numbers overall. I believe the second best average running position of all drivers so far this season, and I believe the most DraftKings points per race using the data set that I am looking at. So Chase Elliott's obviously been very good, and he's also good at 1.5 mile tracks. Did finish 29th last weekend at Kansas, but we'll chalk that up to bad luck. He was up front several times. Starting in 13th, hard to imagine he's not going to gain spots, so just because of the lack of laps and he offers you place differential upside, I think you're going to have to get to at least some Chase Elliott. Now, I want you to keep in mind, practice and qualifying just ended, so I have not yet written my projections, have not yet written ownership projections, so we're kind of just talking through the slate for the first time as I am seeing it, so you get my just first reactions here. I don't have the more polished thoughts tomorrow. If I end up doing the live stream, or you can find me over on Osmo or over on the Patreon as well. Then moving down to Kyle Busch, $9,500. He is starting on the pole. I imagine if they are going to change odds, I bet he ends up being the best, or at least tied for the best with maybe a couple other drivers. But heading into the weekend, I was all aboard the JGR train like I was last weekend. Loved JGR, loved Chastain. Chastain didn't really kill it, didn't have a bad race, but didn't really pay off his price point. But the JGR guys looked amazing, so did all the Toyotas. I don't see any reason why they can't be fast again, so I'm going to be all aboard the JGR train. Kyle Busch is very good at Texas, has some really good numbers. He's finished 3rd and 4th at the 2 1.5 mile tracks that we've had so far this season. He's having a great year overall, was great at the intermediates last season, was first in average green flag speed last week at Kansas. Starting on the pole, if anybody's going to dominate this race, I think Kyle Busch has a very good chance of doing so, so I definitely like him quite a bit here. And if he ends up winning stage 1, that'll be good for him at the end when they reshuffle and have the guys that won stages start at certain positions. So like Kyle Busch a lot, think you can play him in cash games or tournaments, although if you're playing cash games for the All-Star race, you might be a little bit nuts, but if we can make a good lineup fit, maybe you're not too nuts, but again, we'll figure it out. These are just my first reactions on the slate. Then moving down to his teammate, fellow JGR driver in a Toyota, Denny Hamlin, $9,200 on DraftKings. He is starting in 16th. He is probably the best play on the slate if you're looking at the practice numbers, which I did not mention for Kyle Busch, but he was P3 in the 1 lap, P8 in the 5 lap, didn't get anything after that. But if you're looking at practice speeds, Hamlin looked like he just about had the car to beat. First in the 1 lap in practice, second in the 5 lap, also second in the 10 lap. And he's been very fast this season. Like I said, the bad luck has just continued for him, but at some point that bad luck is going to stop. It didn't really stop last weekend. It stopped in the sense where he actually finished the race, got a top 5 finish, but he had like 3 penalties, had to keep going to the rear, and he started the race from the rear, so I think he ended up having like 4 incidents during that race, but he ripped through the field each time, had a super fast car. If he had clean air at some point, I think he could have easily dominated, won that race, but he's had a fast car this season, just hasn't had the finishes to show for it. But starting P16, that is not a tough price point to get to on both sides, so sign me up for the Denny Hamlin I can handle. I think we end up seeing him probably be the most owned driver on this slate. It'll be close between some guys, but it's going to be hard not to like Denny Hamlin here in all formats. And then another JGR driver, Martin Truex Jr., he is starting in 7th. He's $9,000, decent price point there. But was P15 in the 5 lap, P5 in the 1 lap. Again, all the JGR cars were fast last weekend. They were fast in Vegas. I can't imagine they're not going to be fast once again. So while the practice speeds didn't really jump off the charts for Martin Truex in the longer run for the 5 lap, I hate to call a 5 lap a long run, but we don't have much practice data to work with. I'll still play him in tournaments, but I'm not going to get there in cash games. Moving down to the 8K range, we have Billy B, $8,800. He is starting in 3rd. Practice was not impressive for him. P12 in the 1, P12 in the 5, and then dead last as far as all the other drivers that ran 10 laps in the 10-lap run. And he's had his fair share of bad luck. He was up front the past 2 weeks at Darlington and at Kansas, ended up having issues both times. Could have very easily won that Darlington race. Obviously, Joey Logano punted him. And then running up front last weekend, I believe it was a flat tire that ended up killing him for a bit. Starting in P3 at $8,800. I think he had to have some exposure, at least in tournaments at that price point, because I could easily see him hanging around the top 5 all day. As good as he's been so far this season, just not a bad stretch of luck, but that can certainly change. I'm not sure I want to overreact to the practice numbers too much because it just wasn't a huge practice session. So I'm not going to be probably insanely overweight on William Byron. I definitely want to at least get some exposure to him, or at least try to be even to the field. Right below him, Ross Chastain, $8,600. He is starting in 6th. I will play Ross Chastain just about every single week this year until the wheels fall off, which, you know, the wheels have kind of fallen off a couple times when he wrecks. But outside of that, he's always had a fast car. Now, I will say, earlier in the season, the JGR cars were not looking that great, and Ross Chastain certainly capitalized off that a little bit. And they were very fast last week, and you kind of saw Ross Chastain run around P5 to P8 all day. So that's maybe a slight concern, but he still had one of the best cars this season. Was P4 in the 5 lap, P6 in the 1 lap. Hard to imagine, don't mind me going there. Nothing was on that page anyway. I have a hard time imagining him not having a strong race. I mean, 49 DraftKings points per race this year, 4 top 5s, 5 top 10s. In the data set that I'm using, not looking at road courses or super speedways, because those are, I wouldn't say the road course is random, but it's not the data set that I want to use as far as projecting this race. But 3rd at Vegas, 7th at Kansas, $8,600. He's someone I'm certainly going to play just because of how good he's been so far this year. Plus, I love to see the Watermelon Man crush a watermelon, winning $1 million at the end of the day. I'm sure most people would agree there. Joey Logano, $8,400. He is starting in 9th. The Fords just don't really have top line speed. I know he won Darlington. He certainly wasn't the best car there. Just had a clean air for a decent portion of that race to capitalize on. Then he punted Byron at the end. But the Fords have just not had a ton of speed. I don't really see them contending with the Chevys or Toyota in this one. So if you don't play a little bit of Joey, that's fine because he's cheap. But at the same time, everybody else is cheap. I'm just not in love with the Fords for this one. Alex Bowman, $8,200, $8,500 on FanDuel. He's starting in 20th. He was dead last in just about every practice metric, was dead last in the 1 lap, and then 19th in the 5 lap. I'm not sure if we had every single driver run a 5 lap run, but he was slow nonetheless. He was complaining about his car, which does give me concerns because he's going to be chalky. He's starting dead last as far as the all-star drivers go. Then he won't be dead last once we get the open guys in, but that P20 starting spot right now is going to have some people eyeing him, but it didn't look like he had a fast car. It didn't look like he liked it too much, but his price point, it's not like he's a 9K plus driver. We're talking the low 8K range. I'm willing to take shots on Alex Bowman. If you're playing cash games, I feel like I'll end up getting there just because we have locked in place differential upside. And if there happens to be wrecks during this race or anything, I mean, starting P20, it's going to be hard for him to fail. So he's a good cash game play. Tournaments, again, I've not yet run projections, but it might be worth being underweight if he's going to end up having a slow car. And then Tyler Reddick, $8,000, our first open driver. I feel like there's a good chance he makes it in. He's starting on the pole. He was fastest in practice as far as the open drivers are concerned. I'm penciling him in for P21 right now. If he ends up qualifying P21, it's going to be hard for me not to like Tyler Reddick. We know he's got plenty of upside each and every single week. He's had a fast car all season long. Problem with Reddick is that it seems like he just about wrecks in half of his races, so we'll see what happens, but as long as he makes the All-Star race, I'm going to be having quite a bit of Tyler Reddick, as you're going to have plenty of place differential because he'll be starting at worst 21st place. Dropping down to the 7K range, we have Ryan Blaney, who just seems way so cheap there. I don't think he should be below Reddick. I don't think he should be below, I mean, you can make a case for him being below Joey Logano, but just seems like a really nice price point for him. Starting in P2, got to battle Kyle Busch at the end there for the pole position. Didn't end up getting it, but he had a fast car in practice. I know I said I wasn't too infatuated with wanting to roster the Fords, but if I had to roster any Ford, it's probably going to be Ryan Blaney because he was P1 in the 5 lap and P3 in the 10 lap. Plus, we know he's excellent at Texas. I mean, 113.2 for his drive rating, which is actually best of all drivers. 5 top 10s, 2 top 5s, and some of the most dominant points. This has always been a very good track for him. If I had to pick between him or Kyle Busch, it's going to be Busch for me starting on the pole, but Blaney could certainly hang around the top 5 all day, pick up some fast laps, and finish in the top 3, which might be good enough at $7,900. So I'd certainly want exposure to him. Then we have some open drivers here, Eric Jones, Daniel Suarez. I don't want to spend too much time talking about them. If I had to pick the 3 open drivers that make it, I feel like we see Reddick, Jones, and then either Dillon or Stenhouse, but it's going to be a guessing game, so I'm not going to sit here trying to project it. But any of the guys that advance, the final 4 drivers, they're going to be in play just because they have place differential upside. We'll kind of leave it at that. But Reddick's going to be the one I definitely have the most interest in, as he's certainly the best of the guys left. So let's just move down to Christopher Bell because we know he's locked into this race. He qualified 14th. If you look at the Vegas odds, again, these were pre-practice and qualifying, so they might change a little bit. But according to his odds, he should not be priced below guys like Eric Jones, Daniel Suarez, kind of close to Kevin Harvick. But he's a JGR car. They were super fast last weekend. He overcame some issues. I believe he had that flat tire. It looked like his day was going to be over, but I mean, they turned on the Jets at the end of the race and they all finished like in the top 6, I believe. So they absolutely crushed it. All the Toyotas look great. Bubba Wallace got screwed a couple times on pit road, but I mean, Hamlin, Kyle Busch, Kurt Busch, obviously, Martin Truex Jr., and I don't think I'm missing anybody else. I might have. Christopher Bell, obviously. All had super fast race cars. I think it'll be fast once again. Bell did struggle a little bit in practice, though. Was P15 in the one lap. Didn't get anything after that, but at his price point, starting in P14, he's got top 5 upside. I'll be rostering Christopher Bell. Austin Dillon, great at intermediates, but like I said, not going to spend too much time talking about the open drivers because some of these guys aren't going to make it. I don't want to waste my time talking about it. Kevin Harvick, $7,300. He is starting in P15. He's been great finish-wise this year. Practice wasn't pretty, though. P19 in the one lap, P17 in the 5 lap. Maybe a bit of a trap play starting back in 15th. We know he's got great numbers at Texas, though, which might draw some people towards him, especially at that price point. As good as he's been this year finish-wise, isn't dominating, but you don't need him to dominate at only $7,300. But he's got 2 wins, 4 top 5s. Just some overall very, very elite numbers. We can't argue that. And so far this season, P15 at Kansas, P12 at Las Vegas, P7 at Auto Club. You got to keep in mind, though, that's with nearly 40 car fields. You drop this down to 24 cars, those P7s, P8s aren't going to look quite as nice, even though you are starting in 15. So that is something to keep in mind. But he has been pretty consistent so far this year. But don't like what I saw from him in practice. And like I said, the Fords, he's really not going to be on my radars too much. Chase Briscoe, $7,200. He's starting in 11th. Going to have a hard time getting to too much Briscoe here. Looking at practice, kind of on par with his teammate Kevin Harvick. P18 in the 1 lap and P18 in the 5 lap. Not going to have a ton of interest in Chase Briscoe. If Stenhouse makes it, I'll have some interest. He's actually been really good several weeks now. P8 at Kansas, P21 in Vegas, but P10th at Auto Club. Had a good race at Dover. He's running pretty well. So if you just want to ride the hot hand, if he makes it in, he will certainly have a lot of place differential upside. And he's shown some speed in recent weeks to make that work. And then a guy that's probably underpriced, Kurt Busch, $7,000. He is starting in 5th. I don't want to call him the same play as last weekend because it was a different scenario. He had the beautiful Michael Jordan car. He was P1 in practice and also fast in just about all metrics. I thought he was underpriced, starting a similar spot. I did not expect him to get 110 DraftKings points, but I certainly was not complaining because I was overweight. It was one of my favorite tournament plays. Ended up working out quite nicely. Not going to expect that again, but do I think he can ride around the top 5 all day? At only $7,000? Yeah, I don't think it's out of the question. He was P6 in the 5 lap and P4 in the 10 lap. I'll be more than happy to go back to Kurt Busch this weekend. Just don't expect 110 DraftKings points again. And moving on to the 6K range, we'll start with Austin Cindric, $6,900 over on DraftKings. He is starting in 12th. Maybe an interesting tournament play here was P7 in the 5 lap and P6 in the 10 lap. His teammate Ryan Blaney was also very fast. Joey Logano wasn't terrible either. He looked like he had a top 10 car, at least as far as practice goes. He had similar tracks this year, 11th at Kansas, 19th at Vegas, 12th at Auto Club. If he can get a top 10 at sub 7K, I don't think it's the worst play in the world, but it's going to be kind of tough to click on his name. He is a tournament play only. Brett Keselowski at $6,800, very cheap over on FanDuel, which FanDuel doesn't have like any of the open drivers, and I don't believe they're adding any of them, so that's something to keep in mind when making lineups, that they're not going to add those drivers to the player pool. At least that's what they did last year. Can't imagine it's going to be any different this weekend, so just keep that in mind that you're not going to be able to play guys like Tyler Reddick or Busch or Stenhouse if they end up advancing. But anyway, BK here, starting 18th, you have built-in place differential upside. He was P11 in the 11 and the 5 lap and P16 in the 1 lap. For where he's starting and his price point, he's a fine play, but do not expect much. I think he'll be lucky if he gets to top 15. Buescher, again, not going to talk about these open drivers too much. Whoever makes it's going to be a fine, cheap place differential play. Bubba Wallace, $6,500. He's starting in 17th. P8 in the 1 lap, P13 in the 5, P7 in the 10. If you like the Toyotas, you have to have some interest in Bubba Wallace. He was very fast last weekend. Honestly, had a top 5 car. He just kept going to the rear. As long as he doesn't have issues this time around, I think he can improve upon that P17 starting spot. Does it ever feel nice playing Bubba? No, but if you like all the Toyotas, the JGR cars, and Kurt Busch, you can't just completely cross up Bubba Wallace, which we saw last weekend, as he did make the optimal lineup. Eric Almirola, $6,300. He's starting in P8. That's a very tough starting position to have any interest in. The thing is, though, he's very good at Texas. I hate to even talk about track history, but very good here. 4 top 10s and actually has some dominator points, and he also finished 6th at Vegas and 6th at Auto Club, so I don't think it's out of the equation for where Eric Almirola can be viable starting in P8 at this price point, but just know I'll have limited exposure to him. Then AJ Allmendinger starting in P10th. He's at $6,000. I can't really see myself playing Dinger. Yes, he was 9th in the 5 lap and 10th in the 1 lap, but I have a hard time seeing him hold that spot. Maybe a couple exposures, Sure, I'm okay with that, but I would not be anything too extravagant on Allmendinger. Burton, Dylan LaJoy gonna have to race their ways in. Do I see that happening? Probably not. Michael McDowell, $5,600. He is starting in P19. If you need an absolute punt to fit in a bunch of DOMs, I say DOMs loosely with a 125 lap race, but if you want to fit in guys like Elliott, Larson, Busch, Hamlin, you probably have to dip down to a guy like McDowell, and he does offer you some place differential upside, and he was P14 in the 5 lap in practice, and hasn't been that bad at Texas. 3 top 20s and 2 top 15s. But if you look at the recent finishes at similar tracks this year, 23rd at Kansas, 27th at Vegas, and 31st Auto Club. So nothing too pretty. Is he an okay play? Sure, but I'm not going to expect much out of him. And then going Lennon Castle, I can't see them making this race. Someone will get the fan vote. I'm not sure who it's going to be, so I'm not even going to try to guess it, but we'll see what ends up happening. But with that being said, I think that'll be it for the video. So I do appreciate you watching. If you made it all the way through, let me know in the comments. You're a trooper if you did for the All-Star race. But yeah, not really sure what to expect from this race, but I don't think it's going to be anything too crazy. I still think we see the fast cars at the top at the end of the day. And like I said, if you want access to the sheets, you can sign up and you'll get this last 2 races for free. As long as you stay signed up on June 1st, I'll be more than happy to refund one of the charges for you. So it's probably the best time to come in and sign up. And I do offer other sports, including baseball, each and every single day in addition to the NASCAR. So come in, check it out, try it out. And if you like it, feel free to stick around. And make sure to leave a like on the video if you haven't already. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet. And if you're brand new, I'll be more than happy to keep supplying you with some NASCAR DFS content throughout the season because I am going nowhere. So if you're going to keep coming by, might as well subscribe to make it easier on both of us. Check out the sponsor of the show, PrizePicks. Use promo code CPENN to get that free instant deposit match bonus up to $100. I'll do PrizePicks projections over on the spreadsheet if you want to make that easier for you, which includes leverage scores and all that fun stuff. Follow me on Twitter, ChrisPennell16, CPENN16 over on IG. With that being said, I'll get out of here, and I wish you all the best of luck this weekend.